What I'm going to show you now is Advisor Core by YourStake. And this is honestly really 3 products in one. So the first product is what I alluded to. You upload one or several brokerage statements, and you're able to automatically get an extract of all of the holdings into a spreadsheet form, and then you're able to run an instant portfolio analysis. So I'm going to click Upload New. I'm going to go to our sample statements. I'm going to go to our account statement. And then what this is actually a sample TD Ameritrade statement. This is something that we found brings back a lot of nostalgia for the old TD advisors, but this can work with any statement type. This looks pretty familiar, and what it can do is it can translate this and take all of the holdings that you see here and turn it into, again, an actual portfolio analysis and a spreadsheet extract. This particular statement, I'll just note, does not happen to have cost basis. If cost basis is included, that's something that will be part of the extract and export. One thing I also want to share, a really cool thing that allows this to work, is this works not just with statements that are downloaded from TD Ameritrade on the internet, but it also works for scanned statements. And we've even seen statements where people have their shadow of themselves holding up a phone to try to take a picture of the statement. And it is still able to go through using our OCR technology. So step 1 is upload one or multiple statements. Here we go. In about 45 seconds, it's ready for download. And what we can do is we can click to download this CSV file or Excel, a spreadsheet. And here we go. So yeah, again, we see the symbol, the name, the quantity, cost basis is there if it's on the statement, market value, fees, security type, and the account. If there are multiple accounts, you'd be able to see everything broken out by the different account to be able to separate things out for when you're running your analysis as well. So that on its own is actually a really compelling initial product. We've found a lot of advisors, especially actually anyone in growth mode that's getting a lot of statements, just getting a lot of value just from taking the information from a document and extracting it into a spreadsheet. This is not unique to brokerage statements, actually. There's a lot of people using tools that take the information from a tax statement and extract that, or an estate plan. And that's something that I mentioned earlier, and think very soon you're going to have a way to just upload all of your financial documents that you have about a particular prospect or client and be able to get all the analytics that you need immediately. But for now, YourStake provides that brokerage statement extraction. So what we can do next is, actually one last thing there. So we do have a lot of advisors that are using this that are kind of solo advisors that are bootstrapped and don't have that much time to be able to do all this analysis, and it saves them a lot of time. And we also have some of the top RIAs in the country that are uploading 5 to 10 of these per day to just really streamline their processes. So the next thing that we can do is run an analysis. So I'll start by selecting a risk level. And this is something that YourStake has, a risk tolerance questionnaire. I believe this is part of the materials, or we can send it to you after the call. But it's a pretty standard risk tolerance questionnaire. You can use that to automatically get the risk level, or we recognize advisors already have plenty of risk tolerance questionnaire solutions. So if you want, you can just select whatever risk tolerance that you want to analyze for your client. The next thing that you can do is actually analyze things from a values alignment perspective. So kind of just providing the most value. This is an optional thing. Both of these are optional. But we can say, hey, my client cares about the planet, they care about fossil fuels, and they care about health. And then we're able to run an analysis there. And then the last thing is, by default, you're seeing a comparison with the S&P 500, but you can create any benchmark you want. So that can be 60-40 ACWI-AG if you want it to be. And you can actually compare with any portfolio that is in the YourStake system. So you can compare one statement to another statement. You can compare this statement to your proposed model portfolio. And that can be actually the way that most people are using this, is they're comparing their prospect statement, or again, multiple, we can add another item, to a model portfolio that they have to be able to do that side-by-side comparison and demonstrate how it's going to be better alignment from a risk, values, and other financial metric perspective. So for now, I'm actually going to stick with S&P 500 because people are familiar with it, and you wouldn't know the random model portfolio that I have. So I'll click Run Analysis. Cool. So what we now see is a little bit of an overview page to start with. Risk, values, sector breakdown, asset class, returns, volatility, fees, market cap. But we found that you can see the overview page, or you can also just click through all of the sections. So we can start by clicking on the holdings. This is exactly what you saw in that spreadsheet download, but you can also see it on the web page. One thing to note is that we've got a $27,000 portfolio, and this particular portfolio has a $16,000 cash position. And that makes sense that we would see that reflected on the risk alignment. So we can see that this is a conservative portfolio, an 18.5 risk score, whereas our client risk score is more on the aggressive side, and we're able to see that the S&P 500, or usually what people will do is my proposed portfolio is going to be a better alignment for your particular risk needs and preferences. I'll just share that all of our methodologies are included at the bottom of each page, but that's something that we're happy to send over, and this particular score is based on drawdown. Happy to have that conversation. The next thing that we can go into is, okay, so we have this 18.5 risk score. Let's take a look at the asset class breakdown, and we're able to see, yes, that cash is a big component. There's a little bit of bonds, and this is looking through the funds, by the way. So if we want to see where's the bond exposure coming from, we can see where that is coming from within each fund. We can do the same thing with equity sector breakdown. So for example, I want to be able to click onto real estate to be able to see where things are coming from a real estate perspective. We can see that it's coming from primarily funds and be able to get more information there. The next thing that we can click on is our values alignment, where we can see that overall our account statement is actually underperforming the S&P 500 on these different values metrics: health defender, planet protector, and fossil fuel industry exposure. And we do have a whole section of the Your Stake site where if you do have a client that wants to really dive in from a values-based perspective, we can click in to launch this full report and be able to see additional information here on kind of what's going on within the portfolio from a values-based perspective. Next, we got trailing returns and trailing volatility, fees from fund expenses, and market cap breakdown. And what we're able to see is that actually we have the ability to have a chat with our portfolio as well. So what I did actually while the thing was loading is we're able to see here information about what's going on within the portfolio and the ability to ask a question of the chat. So I asked the most common question that we see coming up all the time, which is, why does my account statement underperform the S&P 500? And we can see that it's able to answer the question. The underperformance of the account statement can be attributed to asset allocation, sector allocation, international exposure, and the individual holdings. And then if we want to ask a follow-up question of, hey, well, maybe the fees are causing some issue, what's going on from that perspective? We're able to ask the same thing here and be able to get an answer from the chat. So I can ask, which funds have the highest expense ratios? And then the chat is able to give an answer here as well. So what I really, really, really want to highlight here is that this chat with the portfolio feature is something that can be scary. And we actually got one question on the initial questions that were asked before this presentation of someone mentioning that there was an example of, I think, lawyers who tried to be able to present a case. And as part of their research, they asked ChatGPT for some case history. And the lawyer actually used that information from ChatGPT as part of their presentation. And it turned out that all of the cases that were cited by ChatGPT were completely made up and false. And the technical term for that is called a hallucination. So that's something that can be very dangerous if you just were to go into ChatGPT and say, hey, here's my portfolio. Can you tell me about the expense ratio of these funds? It will get the answer wrong. So what our innovation at Your Stake is here with this chat with a portfolio feature is to be able to take the information in our database. We have all the information about expense ratios. We have all the information about returns. We have all the information about asset classes. And we're able to feed that into the chat and into the artificial intelligence system to be able to provide an experience that doesn't have those same hallucinations, and an experience that you're able to actually trust to be able to not make up knowledge on its own, but it's really just acting as a seeker of finding where that knowledge exists within the Your Stake database, and then repackaging that into a chat experience where you'll be able to ask questions and have those follow-ups. So then that's kind of the second product. So again, product number one is extract information from a portfolio or from a brokerage statement and turn it into a portfolio. Number two is just run your standard analysis with a lot of the metrics that you're very used to seeing and be able to have a chat with that portfolio so that you don't need to learn all the new buttons to click on every new tool, but you can just ask any question and it's able to give you the answer there. And this, by the way, is something that this idea of using the information from a deterministic database to be able to power answers is something that's very similar to what's being used by Morgan Stanley, where they have research analysts or the market commentaries as the primary source of information, where the AI is able to pull from that. I believe even Morningstar is doing something similar, where they're pulling information from analyst ratings to be able to help provide context. I'm not aware, and there could be this, but I'm not aware of any functionality other than what we're doing right now that actually allows you to chat with a specific prospect's portfolio, though. So again, from a speed perspective, this does really speed up your ability to understand and analyze the portfolio to then create a presentation. And then finally, we're able to export this presentation into a PowerPoint file. And I'll just load this. I have it loaded up already with the logo scrubbed, but this is something that can be co-branded with your own logo. And you're able to see that it's able to export all the information from the sections into a PowerPoint or a Google slide. And then you're able to make edits. So one of the big pieces of feedback that we received from advisors is that PDFs are great, but they can be frustrating when you want to change a word or two. So this allows you to put things in your own voice. And just like AI content creation, as I talked about at the start, it's a really great first draft for you to then be able to take and make tweaks if you need to, or just use it directly out of the box, which we have a number of advisors doing as well. So from there, I believe, where was I? Here we are. Those are the main things that I really want to share about the Your Stake tool. It's something that a lot of advisors today are using to be able to extract information from a brokerage statement, ask questions, be able to have this presentation mode to be able to make your life hopefully more enjoyable by avoiding manual entry, make things faster, make things more efficient. And we've seen it really help advisors win more prospects into clients.